Okay, so we are recording. All right, so here's number one. Now, while some of y'all are copying that down, I'm going to add a few things here. First of all, notice that this is not an equation. Can someone please tell me why it is not an equation?
There's no equal sign.
There's no equal sign.
Yeah,
Exactly. There's no equal sign. This is what we call an expression. And what we're trying to do is simplify it. Now, I don't know, can y'all see my cursor here?
Yes.
Okay. What we're going to do here, this negative is going to be like a -1 that we're going to distribute here and there. And then the 7K, we're going to distribute it here and then there. So since these are notes, unless you totally know that the next one was distribute, go ahead and write that down. That's the next step. And this is what you'll get after you distribute. Now, if any of y'all ever think I may have made a mistake, I may have. So please tell me, because I can and I do.
Where you get the exponent from?
Okay, we'll do, thank you. That's awesome that you're looking ahead. All right, so let's go here. We got -1 times 6K, that brought here. -1 times 8. Oh, excuse, I made a mistake here already. For crying out loud. Well, let me go back here. Not 48. All right. Nothing like knowing what you're doing. All right, let's try this one again. All right. Okay. The -1 times 8 is -8. Okay, now we get over here. We got 7K times 4K. Now we'll be doing with that some more tomorrow, but remember when you multiply monomials, what do you do with the exponents, guys? Who remembers?
You just like add them, right?
Exactly. So that's a K to the 1, that's a K to the 1. So 7K times 4K is 28K to the 1 + 1 power, or in other words, to the second power. And then 7K times 2 is 14K. All right, now we got 4 terms. While I'm at it, let me point out a couple things. This is not in standard order. If it were in standard order, the biggest exponent, the K² would be out here out front, but it's not. But what we're going to do is we're going to combine like terms now. Now, here's the question. Is this -6K like with this 28K²?
No,
It's not. Do you know why?
because the exponent.
Exactly. The exponents have to be the same. The -6K will combine with 14K, and that should give us probably 12, no, not 12K. That'll give us a help. What for? 8K, there we go. So, and I'm sure I made a mistake on this one here. Oh, somehow I got that one right. All right, so -6K with a 14K will be 8K. But this one is wrong. It shouldn't be -48. It should just be -8. All right, so let me go back to where we were. Now notice that I put the final answer in standard order. This is with the biggest exponent first, then the next biggest one, and then the numbers by themselves are called constant. They always come at the end. All right, any questions on number 1, guys? All right, let's go to number 2. Actually, I'm going to do number 3. Y'all are going to do number 2 on your own. So we're doing number 3. Now, again, I cannot see any one of you because this covers the whole screen for me. So if I'm going too fast, you just simply got to say, Mr. Hilborn, please slow down. All right. Well, like before, we're going to distribute on the left side of this equal sign. We're going to go 8 times 3, which is 24. Then we're going to go 8 times 6n, which will be 48n. Right now, we don't mess with the right-hand side. So we've got 24 plus 48n is equal to negative 3n minus 27. All right, now you may have been taught to do the numbers first. I prefer you to do the variables first. As notice that there is a 48n on the left side of the equal sign and a negative 3n on the right side. We need to get them together on one side or the other. I'd like you to get in the habit of taking the smaller coefficient. That's the number. Negative 3 is smaller than positive 48. So we're going to move it over here by adding 3n to both sides. And if you add 3n to a negative 3n, it zeroes out here on the right side. And 48n plus 3n should give us 51n. Now, I am going to ask that you submit these notes to me before the day's out, so make sure you do as careful a job as you can. Now, most students know, and at least in math 2, know what to do now, but some still are a little bit concerned. They don't know whether to deal with the 51 or the 24. Here's the hint. Whatever number is next to the variable, that goes last. The one that's farthest away, deal with that one first. Since that's a positive 24, we'll get rid of it and move it over here by subtracting 24 from both sides. Well, I put 25. Let me go back here and change that to 24. Yahoo. So if you subtract 24 from a negative 27, you get negative 51.
So is it 1?
Almost. We're going to divide both sides by positive 51. So what's negative 51 divided by positive 51, sweetheart? How about negative?
Negative 1, yeah.
There you go. All right. Is it okay if I move on? Anybody need another minute? All right, let's go to number 5 now.
Are we going to be doing number 4 on our own?
Yes. Yeah, we're going to, I hopped around because I wanted to do the more difficult ones with you. All right, so what we got here, obviously it's an equation because it's an equal sign. We see the 5 outside the parentheses, the 8 outside the parentheses, so we know right now we're going to distribute. So we're going to go 5 times r, that's one of my favorite letters, and then 5 times negative 2, 8 times negative 8, and then 8 times 4r. So 5r times r is 5r, 5 times negative 2 is negative 10, bring down the equal side. 8 times negative 8 is negative 64. 8 times positive 4r is plus 32r. All righty. Now, the alert student will see, okay, I've got a r on the left and an r on the right. then say, which is the smaller coefficient? Is it 32 or 5? Well, 5 is smaller than 32, so 5 is the one I'm going to move over here. I'm going to do it, since that's a positive, I will subtract 5r from both sides. And so 5r minus 5r on the left became a 0. I bring down the minus 10, which now becomes a negative. Bring down the negative 64. Oops. Another mistake I made. That should be a plus sign. What am I doing here? Oh, no wonder I forgot to hit the shift. There we go. Okay, now we're down at this point here, and we're going to add 64 because on the right-hand side, I want that r by itself. I'll deal with the 27 last. This number is farther away, so I move it over by adding 64 to both sides. So negative 10 plus 64 should give me a positive 54. And over here on the right, negative 64 plus 64 zeroed out. So we got 54 equals 27r. And since 27 is multiplied, we eliminate it by dividing. So 27 divided by 27 is the number 1. And 54 divided by 27 is the number 2. All right, guys, any questions on that one? All righty. Now, when this thing finishes recording, I am going to upload it to YouTube and bring down that YouTube link in today's lesson. So if you want to watch it again, if you're not here, well, you wouldn't hear me if you're not here. But if you're ever absent, this is my goal, is to always put it back under the same lesson. All right, so let's drop down to number 8. All right, so what you ought to be noticing here is we got, all right, same old distribution here and here, but we've also got an additional term on the left and an additional term on the right. Well, as before, the first thing we're going to do is do the distributive property. So we got 4 times 6x is 24x. 4 times negative 8 is negative 32. We bring down this minus 6x. We're not going to deal with it yet. On the right-hand side, we bring down the negative 6. We go 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 2x is 14x. Okay, now in the examples before, I said, all right, let's move the x's to one side or the other. But notice that we've got some like terms on the left, 6x and 24x. And we've got like terms right here. These constants are always like terms. So we've got to do that first. But you do it one side at a time. So let's see, what did I do? All right, here on the left side, I took 24x. I subtracted 6x from it and got 18x. I brought down that minus 32. I brought down the equal sign. On the right-hand side, I combined the negative 6 with a positive 14, and we got positive 8, and then brought down the 14x. So now we're in the same place we were prior. I asked myself, okay, what's smaller, 18 or 14? Well, 14 is smaller, so I'm going to move 14x over here by subtracting it from both sides. And because I'm lazy, I'm going to do 2 things at once. I'm going to subtract 14x from both sides. I already know I need to take that minus 32 and add it to both sides. So when I subtract 14x from 18x, I'm left with 4x. When I add 32 to the 8, I get 40. Then I assume at this point, since 4 is multiplied, we divide both sides by 4, and that we get x is equal to 10. All right, any questions on number 8, guys?
No.
Okay, okay. All right, last one, number 10. Now, number 10 is clearly the hardest. And what makes it hard are the fractions, and they tend to scare students. I understand that. They're kind of scary to me too. One thing that I'll show you, I think, when we get to it. Just go ahead and plan on using your calculator with these fractions. But other than the fact that you got scary fractions, consider here we got a -2 times here, a -2 times there, and that's what we're going to do first. We're going to distribute. Now, if you can watch pretty carefully, because I'm going to show you a trick. All right, notice that we got 5/2 a here. Now, -2 times a -8/3, a negative times a negative is a positive. Now, I don't know if you remember that you can take any whole number like this and put it over 1. And you multiply numerators together. So 2 times 8 is 16. That 1 times that 3 is 3. So that's a quick way you can multiply in your head. Certainly, you could also use your calculator. One hint, though, whenever you multiply fractions, put them in parentheses. Now, again, I'm going to use my shortcut. I'm looking here, -2 times 3/2. Okay, I'm going to go -2 times 3 is -6. I'm going to pretend there's a 1 under here. 1 times that 2 is 2. Now, I do realize that -6/2 is the number -3, but we'll deal with that in a moment, okay? Now, at this point, the student wants to add 5/2 plus 16/3. And let me ask you this. Can y'all see my calculator that I'm holding up?
Not the screen, but like the calculator itself, yeah.
Yeah, you can see the calculator? Okay.
Yeah.
Here's how I'd like you to multiply, or in this case, we're going to add fractions. Do the parenthesis, and then do the 5 divided by 2, and close the parenthesis. Can y'all see that?
No.
All right, let me, dadgummit. Well, I don't know what to do at this point. All right, what I think I'll have to put on a some kind of online calculator, but I don't have time today to do that. All right, but at any rate, I'm trusting that some of y'all know how to use your calculator to add 5/2 plus 16/3, and then we're going to take the 6 and divide it by 2. So 5/2 plus 16/3 gives you 47/6a. And then the 6/2 is 3. Now again, without a calculator, this would be a pain in the neck, but we're going to add 3 to both sides to get rid of that -3. And when you do it, adding 3 to this weird fraction, you get a number that's almost like it. In fact, it confused me the first time. You get -5/17/18. All right. Now I want to take and divide both sides by 47/6. And when you do, you get that a is equal to -11/3. Now that one's hard. I like to tell students when something is genuinely hard or medium or easy, and that was hard.
What if we don't have a calculator though?
Well, no, I know it. You got to get you one. But here's one. I don't know if you were here yesterday or not. Let me see if I can. Let me go ahead and get out of here. Come back to. All right.
Mr. Hilborn,
Yes. Okay, can you see in pink, it says calculate 84 in the second row from the top?
Yep.
All right, download that app. It's free. And when you do, it gives you, it looks just like graphing calculators that we're used to using. So that's a free one. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording.